Michelle, she should change her name to Misery Obama. That's really what I think of when Misery Obama never has a positive word to say. Never. Not about children, not about family, certainly not about her husband. By the way, before we leave this topic, here's her latest soundbite that made the rounds. This happened on June 18th, but I was off. Here it is, SOT 39.
You should have threw a boy in the mix.
I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
Baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
No, I would have felt for him.
Here's what happens when former First Lady Michelle Obama becomes the focus of a sharp critique from Megyn Kelly. Things get heated fast. In a no-holds-barred moment, Kelly calls out what she sees as fake relatability and out-of-touch speeches, stripping away the carefully crafted image. If you thought the Obamas were above criticism, this might change your mind. It's bold, biting, and guaranteed to spark conversation.
Speaking of people who continue to play the victim even though they're not, here is today's daily dose of Michelle Obama, who has been out there trying to promote her terrible podcast that has absolutely no fan following. And she decided everything she says and does is a complaint. Everything. And so she winds up talking to Tina Knowles, also better known as Beyonce's mother, about marriage and divorce, which is Michelle's favorite topic, one of them at least. Number one is how much she hates her time as First Lady. She hated it. And number two, I mean, you could go either way, how racist the country is and how much she can't stand it. And then we're coming in, at least in the top three, is her negative comments about her husband. And
Michelle Obama seemed ready to step back into the spotlight, expecting the usual praise and warm reception. But Megyn Kelly wasn't having it. With sharp criticism and a confident smile, she cut through the polished image, challenging the media, buzz, and carefully crafted narrative. Suddenly, the charm and showmanship weren't enough to hold the illusion together.
The Barack Michelle Obama appearance, the podcast, because everybody thinks they're getting a divorce, and let's face it, they probably are. She dragged him onto her show with brother Craig, and the following took place. Here's how it started in SOT 36.
Barack Obama, can you join?
Michelle Obama's public image has always been carefully built, elegant, polished, and elevated by constant media praise and institutional support. But the moment someone takes a closer look and starts calling out what's really going on behind the scenes, that polished image starts to crack.
I genuinely think she meant what she said. Oh God, I'd have another Barack Obama on my hands, and who the hell wants that? I mean, we kind of can relate, but whatever, it's fine. It's different. We're the general public. But it was so funny. Like, I'll show the audience one other thing. Yesterday we had on Ruthless, and Josh Holmes was saying you should show some outtakes because we showed a tease. I'm like, we should show some outtakes. So they cut a couple of you and me, and we were sitting there, and just how funny it was because she's so absurd. We had no idea she was this negative a person.
Megyn Kelly, sharp and clearly ready for this moment, tore through Michelle Obama's carefully crafted public persona with the precision of someone who's been holding back for years. She called out the overly polished, relatable but royal image that Michelle leans on and pointed to the media's predictable praise every time she steps up to a microphone. It's a routine that's starting to feel less inspiring and more rehearsed.
What happened those 8 years we were in the White House?
What happened that 8 years?
What did that do to me internally? My soul.
No one talks about this.
No, they don't.
We made it through.
We got out alive.
I hope we made the country proud.
My girls are whole.
But what happened to me?
What happened to me?
Michelle Obama steps into the spotlight once again with her familiar when they go lone sage, all while delivering passive-aggressive jabs that don't go unnoticed. The contradictions in her public persona have become so routine, it's hard to separate the message from the mixed signals. At this point, it almost feels like she's turned double standards into a brand.
She talks about like her time in the White House, Barack running. It's all negative on this new podcast. I mean, it's exactly what we thought. That it's very clear she hated being First Lady. She hated being in Washington. She doesn't like the fact that Barack was president. I mean, she just has nothing but negative things to say. Here's just one small, she doesn't like openly get, caustic, but she makes it pretty clear.
Michelle Obama keeps presenting herself as above the political fray, but everything she does says otherwise, like a sequel to her first lady role that no one really asked for. It's the political equivalent of a surprise comeback album from someone who's been out of the game for years, except this time, people aren't exactly rushing to listen. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly wasn't buying the act. Not the polished stories about struggle, not the Harvard prestige, and definitely not the carefully crafted image of humble beginnings that somehow includes elite schools and top-tier opportunities. Michelle's attempts at relatability often feel disconnected, like someone Googled average life problems and turned them into talking points. Forgetting a lunch or getting braces doesn't exactly match the lived reality of people juggling bills and basic survival. All while she shares these tales from the comfort of a multi-million-dollar mansion. And Megyn, she cut through it all with her trademark straight-faced delivery, making it clear that the Hallmark version of Michelle's journey just isn't landing anymore. At some point, the fairy tale stops working, especially when everyone knows exactly how much the castle costs.
Woman is a one-woman destitution derby. Every time we check in on her at her podcast, she is feeling sorry for herself. She is criticizing Barack Obama or this country. She never has a positive word to say about anything. And the latest example was when she went on this other guy's podcast, Jay Shetty. She goes and sits down with him, and he asks her, what are you afraid of? And she starts off by saying, well, my fears aren't for me. I think about the streets. My fears aren't for me.
Well, in this current climate for me, it's, what's happening to immigrants.
I travel in a 4-car motor.
And then there's the fashion tour that's constantly packaged as activism. Michelle Obama shows up to charity events dressed like she's headlining the Met Gala, all while talking about staying humble and grounded, because nothing says down to earth like a sequin jumpsuit with a price tag higher than a college semester. At this point, she's one luxury coat away from starting her own royal family. Megyn Kelly didn't hold back. She pointed out that Michelle doesn't just want attention, she wants it choreographed. She wants the spotlight, the soft lighting, the applause on cue, and the standing ovation no matter what she says. And when that doesn't happen, the narrative shifts. Suddenly, it's not about the criticism, it's about how the world just isn't ready for her. It's a well-worn playbook of turning any pushback into proof of persecution, a convenient defense, whenever the image doesn't quite match the reality.
You should have threw a boy in the mix.
I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It's like baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
Ooh, no, I would have felt for him.
She just borrowed our boys.
Yes, I got plenty.
Wow.
Did you catch that? She's glad she didn't have a boy because he would have been a Barack Obama. And that's a hard pass for her. This woman can't stand him. She can't.
Wait a minute. Now I like her. She prevented another Barack in the world. The Iranian regime quakes. We could have had another shot.
The routine is always the same. A few emotional moments, a nod to her humble beginnings, and a reminder that she never wanted the spotlight. Yet Michelle Obama has appeared on more magazine covers than most world leaders. For someone who claims to hate political drama, she sure knows how to stay at the center of it always with a generous side of self-praise. The contradiction is hard to miss. She calls herself a unifier, but her tone often comes off as dismissive and condescending, turning what used to be messages of hope into lectures about how the rest of us just don't get it. Megyn Kelly didn't need to shout or go on a tirade. She simply and calmly pulled back the curtain. Piece by piece, she broke down the carefully crafted image, highlighting the disconnect between the branding and the reality. And just like that, the polished image started to fade, revealing recycled talking points and power suits dressed up as authenticity. Michelle's playbook is getting old. A dash of victimhood to dodge any real criticism, vague feel-good quotes to sound inspiring, and heavy reliance on nostalgia. Remember the garden she planted, sure. Then the White House chef picked the kale and the PR team wrote the press release.
You talk about the need to get your independence because your marriage wasn't always what it should have been.
Right.
Okay, so she's going right in, like, independence is what it's about. Of course, you know, you had a shitty marriage. I can totally relate. And then can I just show you one more? Look at SOT 23. No. I'm sorry. It's the VO6, where the two of them get up and they start dancing. And this is part of the Michelle Obama attempted reinvention. I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed. To make herself into something cool. Here she is again. Make herself into something cool, Walter, that like we can relate to. She's a cool girl because she was first lady and that she can get up there and dance with Beyonce's mom. I'm sorry, but all I can think is you hate.
And let's not pretend Michelle Obama's silence on tough issues isn't deliberate. When real questions come her way, she pivots into a feel-good speech about personal growth and raising strong daughters, completely sidestepping the topic. Every critique somehow becomes an attack on women, turning legitimate discussion into a game of deflection. It's a calculated move. Shift the narrative just enough so that anyone raising concerns is labeled a hater, or worse, someone who just doesn't get it. Because in the world of Michelle, dissent isn't just disagreement, it's treated like blasphemy. And Megyn Kelly's the outsider who showed up with a flashlight and a microphone, refusing to play along. Let's also talk about brand building. Michelle didn't just release a memoir, she launched a full-scale emotional franchise. That book wasn't just a story. It was a soft-lit, perfectly packaged journey wrapped in corporate-approved vulnerability. It felt less like a memoir and more like a spiritual miniseries brought to you by Whole Foods, Soulsicle, and the Ghost of Oprah's book club. Each chapter was layered in carefully curated self-importance, as if every moment of her life carried the weight of a life lesson. There's a difference between being real and paying someone to turn your morning workout into a life-altering revelation that ends with a smoothie and a standing ovation.
Parental pain. We have to become tougher for the sake of our kids. And I just don't think that there's any way around making this easy for parents. And I think that that's what we...
Parenting is never easy.
It's not supposed to be. And it's not fun. You know, life isn't fair. And that's another lesson for kids to learn.
That's right.
It's not fun. It's painful having children. It's not fun.
And she wonders why, as she told Amy Poehler, her daughters run the other way when she opens her mouth to offer what is surely unsolicited advice.
Like, I look back on my own experience with my kids. Yeah, it's hard when they're very little. It's a lot more hard work than, now my kids are 15, 14, and almost 12. But it's still fun. They're so cute. I don't know a mother who would look back at years 1 through 13 and say, it's going to be bad. Those 13 years, they're bad. The kids are a hassle. And then doubles down here saying parenting is not fun. It's
Michelle Obama recently opened up about parenting in a way that caught a lot of people off guard, calling it painful and not fun, especially during the early years. She even admitted that her daughters tend to run the other way when she starts offering advice, which, by her own account, is often unsolicited. Most mothers, even while acknowledging how hard it can be, still reflect on those early years with some level of fondness. But Michelle's tone came off more like a warning than a warm memory. Then came Megyn Kelly with outrage or scandal, but with a calm, clear dose of reality. She didn't need drama to make her point. Just a simple question. Does any of this actually make sense? And that was enough to shake Michelle's polished image. Her usual motivational glow started to feel more like fog, pretty, but hard to see through. Megyn simply held up a mirror. No, shouting, no smear tactics, sus logic. And in doing so, she exposed the cracks in Michelle's carefully curated message. Michelle's communication style is all about soft power judgment wrapped in warmth, sharp responses disguised as polite redirection. The media praises it as graceful empowerment, dressed in cardigans and calm, but for many watching, it feels more like a subtle dig dressed up as inspiration. You know something was said, but you're still trying to figure out if it was a compliment or a take it down, especially when someone gets called interesting 3 times in the same sentence.
Back on my own experience with my kids, yeah, it's hard when they're very little. It's a lot more hard work than, now my kids are 15, 14, and almost 12. But it's still fun. They're so cute. I don't know a mother who would look back at years 1 through 13 and say, it's gonna be bad. Those 13 years, they're bad. The kids are a hassle. And then doubles down here saying parenting is not fun. It's
Michelle Obama recently spoke about parenting in a way that surprised many, calling it painful and not fun, especially during the early years. She even mentioned that her daughters often avoid her when she starts offering advice, which she admits is usually unsolicited. While most parents agree that raising young kids is tough, they also tend to look back on those years with a mix of struggle and joy. But Michelle's take felt less like reflection and more like a warning. That's when Megyn Kelly stepped in it with outrage, but with a steady, practical question. Does this actually make sense? No drama, no scandal, just a reality check. And that was enough to chip away at Michelle's polished, feel-good image. What's usually delivered as inspiration suddenly felt unclear and disconnected. Megyn didn't attack. She simply pointed out the contradictions. Michelle's style often mixes gentle tone with sharp judgment, packaging critique as empowerment. The media eats it up, praising it as elegance and grace. But to many, it comes off as passive-aggressive words with a pointed edge. One moment, you're hearing encouragement. The next, you're wondering if interesting was just a polite way of saying irrelevant.
just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing that now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it.
And the things were, there was a line of people waiting to shake hands with our respective husbands,
Okay.
you know, people like reaching over our heads and spilling water on us, trying to get to these two, illustrious men.
And that's annoying because she's supposed to be the star. Michelle Obama. This dovetails perfectly with so many other comments she's made about how she is like, what about?
Let's not ignore the sense of self-importance Michelle Obama often projects. She presents herself as a symbol of progressive politics, above criticism, and somehow untouched by the messiness of public life. But in reality, she's just as involved as anyone else in the spotlight. The difference is she does it in designer heels while pretending she's floating above it all. Every photo op, speech, and documentary appearance carries the same polished message that her presence alone is meaningful. She promotes it all like her Spotify podcast is changing the world. Spoiler, it's not, but it's a great platform for self-congratulation. Megyn Kelly didn't attack her. She simply cut through the image and revealed what's underneath a carefully curated brand. Because behind every uplifting quote is a business plan, behind every emotional story is a book deal, and behind every candid moment, a full production team directing the perfect angle and lighting.
That there are divorce rumors and, she's not showing up for him, whether it's at the Jimmy Carter funeral or the Trump inauguration or the basketball game he just went to in LA when visiting their daughters, and then dinner with the daughters was not there. Here she is talking about it. If it were me, I would say something nice about him. I would say he's just so charming. It was meant to be. I knew he could heal the earth in the way he did. There was only one person who could do it, and it was my husband, Barack Obama, whatever. Then she gets on to talking a little bit about him personally, and this is how that sounded.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much
2
time to
days
catch up
to check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out.